There we go. Welcome to another fantastic, great show with Hutch on Hunting. I'm your host, and I'm heading up just a few miles north of Colorado Springs up to Fort Collins area. And Bill Vanderheyden. And Bill is the founder, creator of Iron Will Broadheads under the moniker of Iron Will Outfitters. Bill, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Bruce. Thanks for having me on. It'll be good to catch up.
Yeah, it is. And um, in the warm up, we were talking about when we first met. And Bill was at ATA 2018 at the innovation area with his company. And so in 6 years, he's taken it from an idea, which he's an engineer. So he engineered this beautiful, wonderful, world class broadhead into a company that everybody in the industry knows. And for the you listeners that may be going to Africa, there's no better broadhead to go after a doggo board than an iron will broadhead.
Hey, thanks, Bruce. Yeah, it was. I quit my corporate job as a mechanical engineer in 2017, January of 2017, and we went to a small sportsman show in Denver and kind of launched the company. And yeah, I think I went to ATA for the first time. I think a year later. That's probably where we met. And yeah, and I didn't really know that. I didn't, I didn't really think this was gonna take off and become my full time job. I thought I'd still have to do, side work, which I was doing at the beginning. But yeah, it's really, I think people really recognize the importance of having a premium broadhead that would, cut through hide, bone, tissue, stay sharp, get you a pass through, get you the quick kill. Yeah, I was concerned our costs were going to be too high, but just our manufacturing costs were so high, the selling price is where it needed to be. And yeah, to be honest, I didn't think the company would grow because of the price, but I think people recognize that, hey, $30, $40 for a broadhead is worth it, and with all the other things you're doing to prepare for, say, an elk hunt out west.
And one thing, another testimony, and I'm going to give you a lot of them, folks, because iron will is what I shoot. And I have killed multiple whitetail on the farm in Wisconsin with the same broadhead. I didn't touch it. I didn't touch it up. I didn't do anything. I recovered it if there was deer on it. I mean, if there's dirt on it, if there was blood on it, if there was hair on it. And fortunately, it didn't have to go through bone or, ricochet off a leg bone or something or penetrate a shoulder. Um, but I have used the same broadhead to kill multiple deer in multiple archery seasons. And I just love them because I don't have a lot of them. I don't know, I might have six total, and some are 100 grain and some are 125 grain. I used the 125 grain out in Colorado for elk. And if people can see the moose behind you, if I ever draw a moose tag, I'm going to use 125s, single bevel, and that's what I'm going to use because that's what I like.
Yeah, that the reuse actually makes them in the long run save you money. I've been at a number of shows and Total Archery Challenge events. Hanging. We've had a booth there, and so I've talked to a lot of customers, and I've had multiple people now get more than 10 animals with the same broadhead. Um, and there's guys that I've sold six pack to 4 years ago that are still just using that same six pack and shooting. They shoot several animals a year, and they'll shoot them, clean it up, check if it's still sharp, just keep shooting it. If it needs a little touch up, they can do that on a flat stone, and yeah, they can. It's a different mindset. They're not a one and done disposable, but you can use them over and over.
And how does that work into your business plan? Because I just said, I've got six. I do have a six pack, 300 grain and three 125s. So I'm using the same blades over and over again for, I don't know, 4 years, maybe 5 years. So how
Yeah.
does that business plan work in that I'm not a repeat customer because, you know, unless I go to Africa, I'll buy a, you know, 3 pack of 250 grain
Yeah,
broadheads.
I'm maybe not the best businessman, but I like to engineer good products. So, I wanted a broadhead that would kind of be the ultimate for being able to pass through bone. I had a broadhead fail to penetrate an elk shoulder blade in 2004, so 20 years ago now, and I decided to apply my engineering, skills to make a better broadhead, make one that would get through bone, stay sharp, get you that pass through, and yeah, and really, it's I do everything I'm doing with the company is based on improved performance. I want to be a better bow hunter myself. I want to help people be a better bow hunter. Um, but some guys will use the heads over and over and just touch them up and really get their money out of it. And some guys, will shoot it once and want to keep that. Maybe they'll mount the rack and put the broadhead there. A lot of guys like to retire a broadhead, I guess, and they'll buy new ones. I don't because I shoot just too many animals. I just keep reusing them myself too. But and then sometimes you'll lose an arrow. Um, if you miss or you get a pass through on tall grass, soft dirt, sometimes you're going to lose one. And so those customers that know the value of them will buy some more then. And also, really, a lot of these customers are just come to me at shows and it's just a great broadhead. I'll never shoot anything else. I'm making all my buddies shoot them now. And I'll hear that from their buddies. Guys will come up and say, I'll ask if they're using them yet. They'll say no, but a buddy of mine that I hunt with uses them and swears by them and says, I got to shoot them. So, we get a lot of good word of mouth advertisement from those people that use them over and over again as well.
So let's talk about your hunting adventures. Now, you've been a bow hunter for how many years?
Yeah, over 40 years at this point. Maybe 43 years. I'm 55 and I started shooting a bow when I was 4, so I've been shooting a bow for over 50 years. I started with a recurve when I started bow hunting with a recurve when I was 12. So that's, 42, 43 years ago. And then I was switched to a compound when I was 14, and that's why I actually started killing some deer. That was back in Wisconsin, is where I grew up.
What
Um,
part?
Montello, it's a small town. It's near Portage or Wisconsin Dells area, I guess.
Right, because our farm that I hunt, I don't own the farm, but I just call it our farm. And it's in Laval. So it's Baraboo, Reedsburg,
Oh yeah,
basically
yeah,
Laval.
yeah. It's probably within a half hour, 45
Oh,
minutes
yeah,
of my
for
hometown
sure.
area.
You're pretty close to the Wisconsin River.
Yes, yeah. And like the Montello is a little town. The Fox River runs through there, and then there's a Montello River, and there's Buffalo Lake, Montello Lake. It's a kind of a vacation outdoor area. There's a lot of hunting and fishing there. Where I grew up, everybody, maybe not everybody, but probably at least 50% of the men hunt, and maybe 25% of the women hunt as well. It's definitely, I think Wisconsin in general, like Green Bay Packers and deer hunting are two religions everybody kind of
And
follows.
beer. Don't forget the beer and cheese curds and brats.
Yeah, those two for sure.
Well, that's great. And so, how did you get out west? You just come out west for work or school, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so growing up in Wisconsin, bow hunting whitetails, it's funny, but a lot of people, a lot of bow hunters I knew as young guys, our dream was to go elk hunting, out in the mountains. And so when I'd become an mechanical engineer. I worked for 3M company. Um, and then I got a job offer to go and work for a startup company near Boulder, Colorado. And I thought, well, here's my chance to go bow hunt the mountains, of Colorado. So, I took the job. That was 25 years ago now, but just became obsessed with bow hunting elk. I'd already done some mule deer hunting. I'd done some trips to Western North Dakota in the Badlands and hunted mule deer, which I really enjoy as well. But elk is what really hooked me. But yeah, now I hunt elk, mule deer, antelope. I've hunted mountain goat, and I drew a sheep tag. So I'll be hunting bighorn sheep as well in
Wow.
Colorado this
After
year.
how many
Yeah,
years?
about 20 years.
Yeah, it took me 21, and unfortunately, I spent the whole season in the mountains, and I didn't close the deal with archery. And people, all my friends said, "You're crazy," you know, you, you know, don't do it with a bow. And I said, "I'm going to do it my way or no way."
Yeah, I'm gonna do it with a bow, or
Yeah,
no, or not gonna get one. I used to rifle hunt too when I was younger. In Wisconsin, growing up, you can rifle hunt and bow
right.
hunt, shoot a buck either way. And that's a lot of the states you got to choose one or the other. But I think it's been 15 years or so that I've been exclusively bow hunting, that I haven't picked up a rifle, and really I just wanted to get better at bow hunting, and I thought I'm going to go all in on this and either get better or starve and become a vegetarian, I guess. So and it's really I really become you know much more successful the last 10, 12, 15 years, I guess, than I was prior. Not that I was bad prior. It's just that I just wasn't committed to the level of like, it's all or nothing. I'm going to get this animal with a bow here.
Now you're good friends with Aaron Snyder, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm friends with Aaron. I saw him about a week or so ago. I actually stopped in at Cafaro up there in Wyoming. We recorded a
Right. He just moved his
podcast.
company, I'm going to call it a couple of years ago, up to Wyoming
Yep, he did.
from Colorado. And he's just an absolute beast of a bow hunter.
He is. Yeah, he's pretty hardcore for sure. And he's, I caught up with him when at the week that he happened to be home in Wyoming. I think he was only there for a few days. He shot a bear the next day, I think, but he's heading up to, I believe he's going to be in Alaska for a couple of months. So he spends months, bow hunting every year. So I I aspire to get to that level, but actually I'll never I'll never quite get.
Now, are you married and kids and all that sort of stuff?
I'm married. I have 4 kids. They're all out of the house now, though. So, and three of the four are out of college. So it's given me a lot more time to, focus on the company, developing products. So, I design and develop all our products. I run the company, but I have a strong team now that works for the company in the different areas, and then I bow hunt and test the products as much as I can as well.
That's great. One thing I would like to ask you right now, when you finish your sheep tag, can we circle back around and have you back on the show and share that experience? Because, folks, if you've never even considered sheep hunting, it's one, the ultimate. I was fortunate to hunt up in Alaska and got a Dall's ram. I'd never got a stone or a desert, and I did drew a, you know, Rocky Mountain Bighorn, but unfortunately, I wasn't successful there. But I'd love to have you on the show.
Yeah, for sure. This is the area I'm in. I've been applying to an area very near where I live, where I know there's a bunch of big rams, but the success rate of drawing has gone down and down. I think when the Colorado Parks and Wildlife changed it a few years ago, where you didn't have to send in all the money, you only had to pay like $3 to apply. The number of sheep and goat applications just went through the roof. So odds were low, and they went to like extremely low where I was truly trying to go. So I applied to a different part of the state where the draw odds are a bit better, but success rates much lower at around 20%. So I'll have my homework to do there. There's not a lot of rams in that area, so I'll have to really do some scouting, go and figure out where they're at here, and I plan to start doing that, within a week or so here, really, and try and figure out where all the rams live. So when I go back, the season opens August 22nd, so hoping to have some figured out by then.
All right. Well, reach out to me. I know a little bit something about Colorado since I've been here since '85. So if I can help you digital scout at all, just reach out to me, Bill.
Great, yeah, I will.
All right, I'm going to share my screen right now because we're going to go to the company that's making this whole thing work. And that would be Iron Will Broadheads. So you're in charge. You just tell me where you want to go to tell the story about the company.
Yeah, so I really started with broadheads first. So our company, our website is Iron Will Outfitters. So like, the company name is Iron Will Outfitters, but Iron Will Broadheads or just Iron Will is what a lot of people know us as. But broadheads initially, we did the V series broadheads. They were they were vented. So it's about the fourth one down where it says V series broadheads um, under the broadhead tab. That's what we that was our that's the initial 100 grain, 125 grain heads. And really, I just added the vents to get that blade shape that I wanted down to 100 grains. So, what's unique about our head is, when I had that broadhead fail on an elk shoulder blade, I started testing a bunch of different broadheads. I really saw that two blade heads penetrated better, or two blade with bleeder penetrated much better than three blade heads, or for sure mechanical heads as well. Um, but a lot of them, the blades weren't strong enough. They would bend over or break on impact, or the edges would become damaged. So I worked through a number of different steels. I settled on A2 tool steel. So that's a steel used in metal stamping dies to cut other metals. And it's unique in that you can get it very hard and very sharp, but yet has great impact strength. So we have a 60 Rockwell C hardness. We do a cryogenic treatment and a triple temper heat treat to really try and get the highest performance out of that. And it'll cut through hide, bone, tissue like no other. It keeps the force low to penetrate. And so then, therefore, you get more distance through. It'll go, 2 to 3 times as far through a lot of animals as other heads because of that sharpness, edge retention, and that durability.
One thing I want to say, when I did buy a 3 pack, Bill in custom engraved them. So it's kind of cool to have my logo on the box. It's just a cool thing. And I had people say, "Man, that's kind of cool." And I said, "Yeah, it's," and so I'm bringing this up. Iron Will is just a different company that thinks about different things to make the value more personal to you. Does that make sense, Bill?
Yeah, I think a lot of companies, especially bigger companies, they only want to have a couple of SKUs. They only want to have a couple of options. A lot of them just do 100 grain heads. Um, we do 100, 125, 150, on up to 250. We have different series. We have the V series vented. We have the S series solid blade.
Which
We have
one
a
for
wide.
the Cape Buffalo?
Yeah, go to the S series. Take a look at that. And then we have it with or without a bleeder. So if you look under models, that's the S100 with the bleeder. If you go to look at like the S150 buff, which is about halfway down there.
Right.
So that's a no bleeder version. So if you're going to go for Cape Buffalo, water buffalo, that's what the buff stands for here. That's where I recommend no bleeder just for max penetration on big animals like a Cape Buffalo. And we do that head in 150, 200, 200, and 250 grain. You can match that with the components you want to get a total arrow weight. We help a lot of people that are going to Africa. They might say they want to get over 700 grains. They want a 2-blade head. So we might recommend like the FMJ Dangerous Game 250 spine with our impact collar and our hit insert 150 or 200 grain head. Now you're up to like 750, 800 grain total arrow weight. That's a great one for that. But a lot of guys choose that also for bison or for moose, especially if they're a lower poundage setup, just to get that max penetration. The bleedered versions don't really reduce penetration very much, but if max penetration is what you're after, the buff version is the way to go.
Now I see a Snyder core. Is that the one Aaron made, or you worked it out with
Yeah,
him?
Yeah, I worked with Aaron on that. We were both shooting micro diameter arrows a few years back, trying to get a higher strength component system. And a lot of people are going to half outs or outserts, which they mount your broadhead out an inch in front of your arrow and create this lever arm. They're way more likely to bend. So Aaron wanted a glue-in version of the longer shank, basically with a 166, 165, 166 diameter shank. They could bond down inside of a micro diameter arrow. I wanted the option of it to be like a screw in, screw out as well. So we made this where you can attach a deep six threaded hit on the back of it, and bond that all in as one, or you can just bond in this long shank. So it's the Snyder core system. It's got a 1 inch long shank before the threads start. And then the threads are at 640, which is like which is the same as a deep six broadhead or hit insert. And we also still make the deep six as well, which looks similar, but it's got a shorter shank to it. And you can use that with a deep six hits as well if you want to screw in and screw out system. But that builds the strength. The thing I like about it is it builds that strength down inside the arrow versus like mounting it way out in front of the arrow.
And for the people that aren't as astute, let's just say they don't understand. Now, why is it important to have it inside your arrow for strength?
Yeah. So, think about it like a breaker bar. If you got a bolt that's sticking and you can add a bar to it and crank on it from 2 feet out, it's pretty easy to, loosen that bolt or bust or break that lug nut, maybe right in two. You got all that leverage out there. And so similarly, if you have your broadhead that's mounted a full inch out in front of the carbon, the cut carbon on the arrow, and then your broadhead, say, is another inch to inch and a half long, you've got a 2 to 2.5 inch lever arm that if the tip of that point hits the side of a bone, you got this, couple inch long lever arm that you're bending that arrow over, and you're much more likely to damage that and the arrow, maybe break out that carbon or bend that shank going down into the arrow. Versus with a deep six or Snyder core system, that broadhead, the head of that broadhead sits flush to the end of your arrow. Impact collar goes over it, but it's only about 20 thousandths or so thick steel flange there that's separating. So, you don't have that big lever arm. So that side impact doesn't put nearly the force on the end of your arrow. Also with that impact collar on the outside of the hit, overlapping a hit insert on the inside in the deep six system, you've got this, hardened metal, carbon fiber, hardened metal layers that really build a lot of strength into your arrow. And that attachment is just much stronger and much less likely to bend and break something or just suck up all the energy on impact.
Now, with the speeds that cross pros and the compounds are shooting these days, where do you think the best place is for, let's just call, for whitetails or for elk? What do you think your recommendation is?
You're asking which of our broadheads do I
Yeah.
recommend? Yeah, for elk and a lot of western big game where you could get longer shots. And I'll just stay with a bow, and then we can talk about crossbows too as well. But
Okay.
where you might be taking longer shots, say 60 to 80 yards, I think our standard size heads like our S series or single bevel, and both the S series and single bevel have the same blade sizes. It's just whether we grind both sides of the edge or a single. And the difference there is the single bevel broadheads will get some rotation through the animal. That's become very popular, and it can open up holes a bit better. The S series, though, is still a great choice. Penetrates great, cuts through bone well, and it's inherently a bit of a stronger edge, having that pressure kind of on both sides. But both of them perform really well, cut through bone, undamaged, almost all the time. So either of those are great choices there. Those are good for crossbow as well. I'll throw our V series in there too. Our V series is similar, just has vents to it, and it can be with events. It can be a little more forgiving. I say our with a relatively well tuned bow or crossbow. I think our V series, S series, single bevel heads are all going to shoot really well for you. Um, our wide series is often what I recommend for whitetails or bears. Not that our S series or single bevel will work great as well for those, but for those people that want a bigger hole and they're not shooting that far, a lot of guys like our wide series. It just opens up a bigger hole. It's got a 2 1/8 inch total cut. So 1 3/8 main blade and a 3/4 bleeder. So 2 1/8 inch total cut would be similar to what you're going to get in a lot of mechanicals. Yet it's going to cut through, spine, shoulder blade, shoulder bone. It's going to get you a pass through frontal shots if you're taking them. It's going to open up a lot more shot opportunities and get you that pass through where your broadhead might hang up, otherwise. And the only thing I'd caution with a wide head is they're less forgiving in long range flight. So you have to make sure that you have a very stable arrow. So you want to have an arrow with tall enough vanes on the back. I recommend, the best performing vanes are really the tallest, a 0.55 to 0.58 inch high vanes. But I recommend generally, 3 vanes, half inch taller at 2 to 3 degree offset or helical, get some rotation there. Make sure your arrow is properly spined. Don't go on the weak side. Don't cheat the weak side of spine. Make sure it's optimal because you don't want excessive flexing. You want your arrow to be going pretty straight coming off the bow with a slight flex at the shop, but not continued excessive flexing like you would get an underspined arrow. And then just a bow. Relatively well tuned. Doesn't have to be perfect, but the closer you get to having a tuned bow, the tighter your groups are going to be with fixed blade broadheads.
One thing that's amazing in archery, and we can just look for the wide, you start at wide 100 and go on down the list. And a lot of different choices. And people, I think, spend a lot of time, especially the serious people in the archery world, figuring out what works best for their bow. Now, to me, that takes a lot more effort than when I'm trying to sight in and figure out what loads work for my rifle. I still hunt with my rifles, but they all have loads that I developed over the years that puts, 5 shot and a quarter at 100 yards, and I call that good. Now we're looking at 10 or 15 choices. So how does a person really zero in and figure out what the heck they want?
Good question. We probably start with our arrow chart. So if you go under our arrow menu there, and if you click on precision machine, custom built arrows, so we offer that as a service now as well, where we have a machinist in a machining center, very accurately cutting, facing both ends, and installing all the components. And if you go to our arrow spine chart, right below, just next line down
Okay.
there, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. And if you click on our arrow spine chart, and we've made charts that are for different. You look at your total weight up front, and this will be your broadhead and your components. If you're using our components, it'd be your broadhead plus your hit insert and your impact collar total weight. We have charts that have a 125 total up front, 150, 175, 200, every 25 grains up to, I think, 250. If you're just starting new and you're not quite sure what you want, I would suggest looking at the 150 grains total up front and the 175 grains total up front. That's a pretty good starting point for most people. You can look at the 200 total up front too, if you want. But so take the 150 total grains up front. See what's your poundage, what's your draw length, and then the bow poundage is along the left. The arrow length is along the top. Often you can get by with an arrow that's about an inch shorter than your draw length, but you might know exactly just from what's worked for you. But if you go down that column of arrow length, bring the bow poundage across, it'll give you a recommended spine. And what we put here is, we've gone through and done the analysis on every one of these little squares here, and we're picking a spine that's kind of optimal to slightly stiff. That's where our charts might vary a little bit. A lot of other charts will let you go be a little on the lighter side of spine or a lot lighter side of optimal. And I think for a bow hunter, so for target archery, it doesn't matter. You can be a bit under spine and shoot really well. But when you have a broadhead on the front, you really don't want to be under spine because that excessive flexing puts some kind of angle of attack on that blade as it's flying out there. And you want that to stay straight. So anyway, that'll show you your what spine we recommend. And then if you use axis arrows with our component system there, it'll show you the total arrow weight and your percent FOC. And the total arrow weight, I'd recommend try to fall in that 450 to 550 grains for most people. Maybe 450 to 500 is a pretty good balance between a good penetration and good flight, good trajectory. And if you're on the heavier poundage, longer draw, maybe 500 to 550 might be a better range. But I generally are recommending that 450 to 550 for most North American big game, Western big game, things like that. If you go to Africa, shoot really big animals, then give us a call and we can get more specialized to that animal. But in some cases, you want to go with a heavy arrow there. But anyway, so that'd be my recommendation. Look and see what looks good for you. If you decide you want to go, say, 175 grains total up front. So that's broadhead, collar, and components, basically collar and head insert for us. So you can shoot 100 grain head if you want, if that's what you have been used to, or you can shoot 125. We have almost an equal number of people shooting those two out of our heads. They're both very popular. And then if you want to shoot a 125 grain head, a 25 grain hit, a 25 grain impact collar, that would hit the 175 right there. Or you can do a 100 grain head with a 50 grain hit insert, 25 grain collar to get that 175 up front. So, all right, then once you've kind of decided, okay, I wanted to shoot the 125 head, say, then it's like, well, what animal and what distance are you going? And if you want kind of an all-around head that's good for everything, I'd say just go with our S series. That's a great all-around broadhead, S100 or S125. There's probably been more deer and elk killed with that head than any of them. But then you can read about the other heads. The single bevel gives some rotation. The wide head gives an bigger hole. If one of those seems to fit what you want better, really all of our heads are going to could kill any animal. And they have. So, don't get too hung up on choosing one over the other. It's not really a bad choice. It's just like one might fit your needs and give you more confidence, over the other. But we have great tech support too. Feel free to call in the main number on our website. We're happy to talk through it with you and recommend something for your particular setup and what you want to hunt.
So if I go with S series, you just answered my question. I was going to, before you said that. So I got a tech support guy that said, hey, this is what I'm shooting. I've got a compound. It's, 60 pounds. It's going 350, feet per second. And, help me get the best broadhead that I can for hunting elk. And so will the tech support help the guy do that?
Yeah, they will. Yep. They might question how you can get 350 feet per second out of your bow. Because in most bows, that'd be an extremely light arrow. But yeah, they can talk. Our main
my crossbow Excalibur shoots 380 feet per second.
Yeah,
so I'm a crossbow guide. So folks,
yeah.
Please give me mea culpa.
Yeah, crossbows, we do have a lot of customers shooting that speed for sure. And yeah, we have our V series might be the most popular. But our S100, S125 are great. I think all those are very popular for crossbow shooters. at those high speeds. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend our wide solid blades, but I know guys shoot them. They just tell me that, I've had one customer call up and say, "Hey, with your wide heads, I can only hold 4-inch groups at 60 yards with my crossbow, going, 400 feet per second." Um, and and he's upset about that. I'm saying I think that's wonderful. A 4-inch group at 60 yards with a wide, that was a wide solid. Um, I think it was our wide solid 150 grain crossbow head. And he's like, "Well, I'm used to shooting 1-inch groups with your other, 1 or 2-inch groups with your other heads." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but okay, but a 4-inch group, you're going to hit the vitals of a deer. Yeah, they aren't going to be quite as forgiving. Your groups could open up a little bit, but anyway, so I wouldn't say you can't shoot the wides. I would just say that, yeah, they're probably going to open up your groups a little bit at longer ranges. But a lot of whitetail hunters are using crossbows at 30 yards and under, and I would think they're going to shoot really well for them at that range too.
Yeah, I shoot my whitetail shot. A long shot is 30 yards. Now, elk, completely different. I can shoot
Yeah,
out to 60 yards. Do I want to? No. Do I prefer to shoot 50 yards and under? Yes.
yeah. I have crossbows just for testing, and I shoot nice tight groups at 60 yards with our V series, our S series. Yeah, those are the ones I've tested the most, just to kind of verify that they're looking good.
And one thing, I'll just say this about a crossbow. I use, just like my rifles, I use, shooting sticks, block shooting sticks. And so I'm as stable as I can be. And especially at 60 yards, if they're completely in the open, nothing between me and you except air, I'll take the shot. And then my personal distance diminishes depending on where they're standing, what type of shot I got. It might come down to 20 yards if if I have to sneak an arrow, past a tree, I've just got, 2 feet of target, then I may or may not take the shot.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can shoot more accurately with my regular bow than I can my crossbow at 60 when I'm shooting offhand. Now, if I have a rest, I can shoot tighter groups with the crossbow. But yeah, I can see that. You need a steady rest to make those longer shots, even though the crossbow is totally capable of it. But it's hard with all that weight out in front and holding all that weight
That's
by
right.
hand to shoot really accurately a long range.
Yeah. And it's just, and I'll just bring this up ethically, folks. You're the ultimate decision maker. And unfortunately, I have wounded deer, especially when I was shooting across, not a crossbow, my compound, and I've also lost elk. I just hit the elk high, and I lost them. We did find them, recovered them later on, but I wasted the meat. So, that's gut wrenching. And so I would just ask everybody that's shooting, you got the best equipment in the world that money can buy. You spent a gazillion dollars. You're spending $30 to $40 on your broadheads, but that doesn't make you a good hunter. Your thoughts on that, Bill?
Yeah, I agree. It's I shoot every day because bow hunting success is very important to me. Um, and I hate wounding an animal. I hate making a bad shot, wounding an animal. It's when I wounded that bull in 2004, when I saw it run away with most of my arrow sticking out from its shoulder blade, um, and it was devastating. I worked so hard to get that shot. I spent days looking for it. It probably survived, but I was worried. Maybe it got far enough in that it did die. And it's gut wrenching. And then I spent months, like, it bothered me for months after that. So, you know, it bothered me so much that I decided I was going to apply mechanical engineering to become a better bow hunter and make better gear. So that's that's the effect it has on me. So I hate making a bad shot. So yeah, I practice a lot. I shoot a lot with broadheads as well because the flight's going to be a little different with your arrow with the broadhead on the front. It's the aerodynamics are just different. The vane height, the vane arrow stability matters a lot more. But yeah, every hunter should really do some shooting with their broadheads on. Don't try to shoot groups. I don't want you to damage broadheads and blame it on me or anything. Go pull each one. Shoot at different spots or go pull each one as you shoot it, which isn't a bad idea anyway, to make sure you're like focused on each shot you're making. But spend some time shooting broadheads at whatever max range is that you think you might shoot an animal at, and really kind of understand your capabilities. And because I can tell you that the backyard, let's say I could shoot very accurately. I can shoot well to 100 yards in my backyard because I do it every day. I practice to 120, but I have a target just sitting at 100 that I throw a few arrows at every day. I was shooting at it last night. My group last night, it was a light crosswind. I was still shooting a group of about not 8 inches at 100 yards. That's a mix of field points and broadheads. But even so, I don't shoot an elk that far, even though the target, there might be a 20-inch kill zone or something on an elk. I want to get, I really want to get to like 40 if conditions aren't perfect. But I want to get, even if conditions are perfect, I still want to get under 80. That's kind of a limit I put on myself that, hey, if the air's still, he's broadside, he's feeding, he's not paying attention to me, conditions are perfect. I've killed the elk at 82, hit right where I was aiming. But conditions have to be perfect. And typically they aren't perfect when you're hunting. You're not on level ground. You might be aimed up or down, which could throw your form off a little bit. There can be wind, and there can be wind that's not on you, but it's maybe between you and the animal. So that's why it's a good to limit, whatever you practice to. Like I practice to 120, so I can shoot accurately to 80. So, maybe 2/3 of whatever you feel you're good at in your backyard might be more like your really real effective range when you're hunting. But what I would say is, don't push it. If you only practice to 40, don't shoot to 60 on an animal, which I think happens. People have like pins that go way out there or a slider sight. They don't practice, but they get that one opportunity and they let it fly when they haven't practiced that far. That's what I kind of becomes unethical. Like there's a high probability that you're going to not hit where you're aiming there and wound an animal. So yeah, give some more respect to the animal and practice as far as you think you want to shoot.
Talk about field points. I got up on the screen impact collars, your inserts, and then the field points. And I do have some of your field points.
Yeah. I decided to make field points after I shot my first Total Archery Challenge event several years ago. And this is before, I think it was the first year they had them, but it was before I had a slider sight and I was trying to stack pins and, make 100-yard shots with pins that only went to 70 back then. And, I was putting some in the rocky dirt and some into logs and wrecking a lot of arrows, to be honest. So I decided to make a hardened steel field point that can take that impact. If you use that along with our hit insert, our impact collar, man, it saves a lot of arrows. I designed those impact collars I was doing a lot of heavy bone testing to look at broadhead blade impact strength, and I was wrecking arrows. But once I added that impact collar, the arrows were surviving. And then I found with these hardened steel points, you could typically put an arrow into. You might not be able to shoot a boulder just square on. That might still break something, or hit the rebar in a moose target where your arrow can't, deflect off of it or bend around it. Those two things will probably still wreck your arrow, but a lot of the rocky dirt hits or put them into logs could save your arrow and the field point just having these. So they're hardened steel. I did some fluid dynamic modeling to try and better or more closely match the drag that you get in a broadhead at longer range. So, I shoot groups at 100 yards shooting them again last night. My field points on broadheads are all hitting the same, all hitting together. They're all grouping. There's not a big vertical difference there. And part of it's because I design our broadheads with fluid dynamic modeling as well to kind of try to minimize the drag, keep that flow together around the blades. They're beveled on the back edges so that flow comes back together and kind of minimizes that pressure drop or drag. So you have less drop at distance. But anyway, these field points without bulb shape to them adds a bit more drag, so they are closer. And so, yeah, a lot of guys will buy our field points to go with our broadheads so they can shoot those most of the time and be heading the same point of impact at distance.
Yeah, just repeat that because I look at Iron Will, it's a whole setup, both for your broadheads and then for your field points, because you're going to get the consistency at whatever your maximum range is.
Yeah, we try to do the whole system because that using that hit insert down inside the arrow as well. We talked about building strength into the arrow, but it also kind of builds in accuracy because now the shank of the field point or broadhead aligns right to the inside diameter of the arrow, which is the tightest tolerance portion of the arrow. And that shank is also the tightest tolerance part of the broadhead. So you align those two together, you take out any tolerance stack up you get from these half outs or outserts that have multiple tolerances. You got the fit of the shank inside the head, and you got the shank diameter to the other end of that half out. And then you got that other diameter tolerance there that your head goes into. And then you've got any clearance there. And then now you've got your broadhead. It can be tipped at a little bit of an angle. So with the half outer outsert, it's very common to get 5 or 10 thousandths of an inch run out at the tip of that broadhead if you were, say, to spin it on an arrow spinner and look at the tip. But with our system, especially with our broadheads, it's almost guaranteed to spin true. You spin, an arrow that's, a good quality arrow with our broadhead aligned to the inside diameter. So using our hit insert collars, you spin that on an arrow spinner. I think you're going to be impressed with that. How that tip, you can draw a little straight line on a piece of paper and look straight down on it, and that tip will just stay right on that straight line and spin true. And that's going to help your flight in tighter groups at long range.
And think about how much you do spend. Everybody's not going to go to Alaska. Everybody's not going to Africa. But people are spending in their setup thousands of dollars. Then it comes down to your arrows and your broadheads. And it's just like bullets, that finishes the deal. And archery is so neat because you get up close and personal. Some of the best hunts I ever was on, especially up in Unit 2, got into elk. That wasn't the problem. But the problem was they're on the other side of the bush and I don't have a shot. But it's so exciting. And that's why I love hunting, elk with my bow, because I just got up close and personal and I had the best equipment that I possibly could have when that shot came to close the deal. And you owe it to the animal. I guess I would tell anybody, you owe it to the animal to give yourself the best opportunity for success.
Yeah, I'd say, if bow hunting is important to you, if you're like a committed bow hunter striving to get better, to achieve that success and become, a more, ethical, more confident, more successful bow hunter, that's what our products are about. That's what I'm about. That's what I'm engineering them for. I'm spending many, many hours of engineering time trying to perfect the system, our components, our broadheads, to give you the best performance, to make them, as reliable as science allows, so that, they're not going to fail on you. And, confidence is huge in bow hunting. Having confidence in your setup when you draw back to take that shot makes a big difference. And, I feel totally confident using our heads and components that, hey, this isn't going to fail. there's other things I maybe need to work on or improve, but these broadheads aren't going to let you down. So yeah, that's what it's for people that are striving to improve, and yeah, that's what our products are for.
Well said, Bill. So, folks, you got we're almost in July. It's hard to believe. Next week, 4th of July, and if you're not getting outside and doing 5 reps, 10 reps every single day with your bow, you're not doing the animal you're going to hunt come September, August, September, October, November, and December. And I don't care what animal it is, you owe it to them to get the reps in. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of bow hunting confidence is shooting consistently and shooting often enough to stay consistent. You know, I can't if I would go for a week, which I never do anymore, but if I go for a couple of weeks, say, without shooting my bow, man, things seem a little bit off. It's just if you're not doing it consistently, you tend to change your form a little bit. And if things aren't hitting perfect, you start losing confidence. So the best thing to do there is to just, from now till season, just consistently shoot. You don't have to shoot every day, but it's not a bad idea. Or every other day, or a few times a week at least. I would definitely recommend that.
We're got about 4 minutes left. Bill, closing thoughts?
Man, good catching up with you. It's been a while since we run into
Yeah,
each other and talked, but yeah, let's reconnect after season here and tell some hunting
I
stories.
love to hear the story, and I want to see the pictures.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely send them to you. You'll see them on our. We have an Instagram too for people to want to follow along what we have going on
Okay,
with
why don't you
new
tell us
new
about
products.
social media, how to buy your stuff? Why don't you just go through and give us, the information the customers need, my clients, my listeners need to get a hold of Bill.
Yeah, so our website is ironwilloutfitters.com. We have Instagram where we post daily on whatever is going on. So that's good to follow if you're into social media. It's at Ironwool Outfitters. We copy that over to Facebook too, so you can see it there. We have a YouTube channel where we do some how-to videos or talk about our products. So Ironwool Outfitters YouTube channel, you can check that out. And then on our website, ironwilloutfitters.com, we have this section over to the right. I think it's bow hunting blog, where I sponsored studies with the University of Colorado. I was an adjunct instructor there for several years as one of the faculty directors for their senior design project class. In the last 2 years, I've sponsored projects to better understand arrow flight with broadheads on the front. And so I guess it's the furthest right drop down menu, explore, then it's scientific reports, a bow hunting blog,
Wait a minute, I'm
and
going to pull
then
that up. Just hold on a second.
all right.
Let me just pull that up. No, where's that going to be?
Yeah, so it's go to our website, ironwilloutfitters.com, and then from the
Okay.
main page on the far right, you see explore.
Yes, sir.
That's in the drop down. So click on that drop down menu, and then the first line there, scientific reports, a bow hunting blog. And then if you scroll down a little bit, you can see we've got 3 reports there from last. We've just finished up the second year of a study on vane height, vane design, really, and how it improves. We looked at accuracy, stability, drag, wind drift, spin up, and sound. And we've got 3 reports from the university that we posted so far, and we'll post more information there. So if you really want to geek out on some of the aerodynamics of arrow
Geek out. That's
arrow
funny.
flight with broadheads on the front, yeah, you can do it there. You can read these reports.
That's funny. Uh, we're all kind of geeks, though. I mean, really, if you're into it, you're
Yeah, it's a positive term, I think. And that's
Yeah,
what my kids
I
tell me.
definitely
That's what
think
my kids say.
because,
Yeah.
when I'm building up a load, I mean, I go into hibernation for like maybe 10 days to figure out weighing the powder. Each cartridge is weighed and everything's weighed. And then I write in my book and my spreadsheets and all that stuff. Then I go to the range and, oh, that's no good. Oh, this is good promise. You go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And, you figure it out.
Yeah, we have, there's, and if we have customers that want to dig into it, do all the research themselves and understand it, that's what I call kind of geeking out on it. They want all the details. There it is for them to read. If you're not, man, if you don't want to dig into tech stuff, you just want us to say like, hey, this is what I want to hunt. This is my bow I'm shooting. Help me out with a arrow setup, broadhead setup. Call our main number. You'll probably talk to Bailey in our tech support. She's awesome. She was a tech at a bow shop for several years. Taught archery lessons, helped people with their setup. She was also a professional shooter with Compound, where she podiumed like every event for a few years. So very skilled bow hunter, and she's a trad shooter too. So she shoots Compound as well as traditional. But yeah, I've spent I don't know, 20 hours with her talking through all the details of our products. So she can really recommend setups really well. But if you need to talk to me too, just say, hey, I want to talk to Bill, and we'll arrange a time where I can help a person with their setup as well.
One more time, tell how people can buy your product.
Yeah. Through our website is the best way to find them. ironwilloutfitters.com.
All right. And with that, we're going to say goodbye to Bill. Good luck hunting on your sheep. And I can't wait. I'm excited for you because that's, 20 years, 21 years. You've been waiting for the opportunity to get up close and personal to a Rocky Mountain Bighorn ram.
Yeah. Thanks, Bruce. I'm excited about it. I'll definitely let you know how it goes.